Sometimes life throws you unexpected challenges that turn your world upside down. In today's story, we'll explore how a chance encounter in the most unlikely of places led two people to find hope, love, and a second chance at happiness. As we dive into this heartfelt tale of love, loss, and new beginnings, get ready to be inspired by the power of resilience and the beauty of starting over. Stay tuned, because this is a journey you won't want to miss. Sometimes life throws you curveballs. Events that seem random but end up changing everything. This is a story about how a chance meeting, in an unlikely place at an unlikely time, changed two people's lives forever. It's a story about love, second chances, family, and the importance of having someone you can count on, especially when it feels like you've lost it all. I walked into the Tipsy Crow for a drink. It was only 2 in the afternoon, but I was fresh out of my lawyer's office. Divorce. That's what I wanted. The place was pretty empty between lunch and happy hour. Mike, the bartender, gave me a once-over. "Rough day?" he asked. "You could say that. I just filed for divorce from Laura." "Sorry to hear that. How long have you two been together?" 20 years next month. Divorce should be final by November, if she doesn't fight it. Which I don't think she will. I glanced around and noticed a nice-looking woman sitting alone in a booth. "You know her?" I asked Mike. "That's Avery. Her divorce became final today." I decided to take a chance. Walked over to her table. "Hi, I'm Jake. Mind if I join you?" "I don't think I'd be very good company. Besides, I'm not looking for anything, if you know what I mean." "I get it. Mike told me your divorce is final today. I just filed for mine. Thought it might be good to talk to someone who understands." She looked at me for a long moment. "Go ahead and sit down, Jake. I'm Avery, by the way. Single again after 6 years. I will be 20 next month. You want to swap stories?" Avery gave me a small smile. "Haven't eaten all day, actually. How about you? Want to grab some lunch?" We were both nursing drinks, so it seemed like a good idea. I called Mike over and we both ordered Reubens and fries. And another round of drinks, of course. "Wow, same taste in food. That's a good start," I said. She was a pretty woman, probably early 30s. Definitely had that girl next door thing going on. You know, the type you don't really notice at first, but then you look closer. Avery thanked me for sitting with her. Said she was feeling down, but having someone to talk to helped. As we dug into our sandwiches, she started telling me a bit about herself. "Grew up around here. Went to the States to be a teacher. Always loved kids. Been teaching elementary for 8 years now. Dated some, but nothing serious until I met Mark. My ex. He sold sound equipment to schools, actually. We hit it off the first time he stopped by. Talked for a while, and the next time he came around, he asked me out. Rest is pretty much the usual dating scene. 6 months later, he proposed, and I said yes. Our life was normal, I guess. I thought he did his sales thing. He'd be gone on trips a couple days here and there, but that was expected. Nothing too exciting, you know? We'd go out now and then, movies, dancing, though I was never much of a dancer. He wanted kids, and we tried. After a couple of years, I saw a specialist. She told me it would be harder for me to get pregnant because of some health stuff, but not impossible. We even tried some fertility treatments, but nothing worked. Mark started getting impatient, but what could I do? It just pushed us further apart. I told him we could adopt, but he said he only wanted his own kids. I didn't feel that way. I mean, I was around kids all day, loved them all. Didn't really miss not having my own, at least not until I got home, and it was like escaping from kids for the evening. I still would have been happy to adopt, but I wanted it for him. Then last year, he came home and said we needed to talk. I knew it was bad news. Turns out he was having an affair with his secretary. And she was pregnant. I didn't know what to say. He told me he loved me, but there it was. Honestly, my first thought was what a terrible father he'd be. I felt bad for that kid, growing up with a dad who only cared about himself. We fought, and I told him he could have his girlfriend and the baby. I wanted a divorce. Told him I'd be out of the apartment by the end of the week. I stayed at my parents' that night. My dad and I went back to the apartment early the next morning, and I packed up all my stuff. Well, the important stuff. The rest had to go through the courts. Turns out, we were drowning in debt. Mark always had to have the latest gadgets, the fanciest clothes. Blew through most of his paycheck, and a good chunk of mine, too. We split what little was left. I got to keep my car and the money I'd stashed away before we got married. Basically starting over. I'm renting a decent place now, and managed to furnish it the way I want. At least he's gone from my life for good. He's in his hall? I asked, confused. Hall of Shame, she clarified. He had a wonderful woman, who dedicated her life to teaching children, and if you don't mind me saying, is really quite attractive. I could see Avery blushing. And all he cared about was himself. Trust me, you're better off. We finished our lunch. Avery admitted she felt a lot better. I figured she didn't need to hear my sob story right now. Maybe we could get together sometime, and I'll tell you all about it, I offered. I'd only had a couple of drinks, but Avery had been here a while before me. Who knew how much she'd had? How about I drive you home? You know, make sure you get there safely. I'll just grab a cab back here for my car. Jake, you're really sweet, but I don't think I'm ready. Avery, relax. Just driving you home in your car. That's all. Ask Mike, I'm a nice guy. I flashed her a reassuring smile. We got up and I walked her to her car. She didn't seem that tipsy, but better safe than sorry. I drove her home, walked her to her door. The cab I'd called was already waiting. Thanks for looking out for me. No problem. Can I call you sometime? Avery smiled and gave me her number. Actually, you wouldn't happen to know of any apartments for rent around here, would you? I need to find a new place. Mostly condos around here, but a lot of them are rentals. I'll ask around. It was a nice neighborhood. My cab pulled up. Here are your keys. I'll talk to you soon. We said our goodbyes, and I headed back to my place. Knowing Laura, it was gonna be an interesting night. The cab was already waiting when I got back to Avery's place. Thanks again for looking out for me. And for dinner. No problem at all. Mind if I call you sometime? She smiled and gave me her number. Say, you wouldn't happen to know of any apartments for rent around here, would you? I'm going to need a new place soon. It's mostly condos on this block, but a lot of them are rentals. I can ask around. It was a nice area. Mostly 2 and 3 bedroom units, from what I could see. Avery's was a 2-bedroom. My ride showed up. Here are your keys. Talk to you soon. We said our goodbyes, and I headed back home, bracing myself for a confrontation with Laura. I should probably explain how we got to this point. Not that I'd tell Avery any of this, at least not yet. Laura and I met right after I finished up at community college. Got my associates in insurance adjusting. Laura was working as a bank teller back then. I went by her work to check out some damage to her car after a fender bender. Explained what the insurance company would cover. I worked for a place that had their own network of body shops for minor repairs, but you could get a check if you wanted to go somewhere else. Laura ended up using our shop. Not that her body needed any work. I was smitten pretty much instantly. Turns out, she did some freelance writing and photography for the local paper. I asked her out, and we were pretty much inseparable after that. First time we slept together, well, let's just say it was amazing. 7 months later, we were married. Had Chloe and Ryan within the next couple of years. Laura's mom watched the kids while we worked. My territory covered 4 counties, mostly farmland, so I'd sometimes have to stay overnight, depending on my schedule. Never really caused any problems between us. Laura was a good mom, and I tried to be a good dad. Family vacations, amusement parks, the zoo, the usual stuff. Our sex life was pretty regular, especially when I was on the road. I never cheated on her, even though the opportunity was definitely there in my line of work. A few years back, Laura got a promotion. Started doing more advertising stuff for the paper, writing reviews of new businesses in town. It was about 6 months ago that things started to change. Even the kids noticed. Chloe was in her freshman year at State, living at home, and Ryan was a senior in high school, about to graduate. He'd already gotten accepted to State too. Laura seemed to pick fights with all of us more often. I told the kids it was probably just a phase, that she'd snap out of it. I thought maybe a getaway would help. Ordered tickets for a holiday cruise, leaving Christmas Eve and getting back on New Year's Day. Figured I'd surprise her after Thanksgiving. She kept saying I wasn't any fun anymore. I had no idea what she wanted from me. Maybe we just wanted different things now. Figured a cruise might be just the thing to get us back on track. I was going to keep it a secret until after Thanksgiving. She kept saying I wasn't any fun anymore. I had no idea what she wanted from me. Maybe we did just want different things now. I really didn't know. One night at dinner, my dad brought it up. Jake, that daughter of yours, Chloe. She says her mom's always going out when you're on the road. Never used to be like that, she says. Where does she say she's going? Out with her girlfriends. And, what, you don't believe her? I didn't say that. It's just, sometimes twice a week. Always when you're gone. Oh, she's always home by midnight. But it just rubs me the wrong way, that's all. So, I talked to Laura the next day. Asked her about it. She got all defensive. I haven't done anything wrong, Jake. I go out with my friends, some clients. The kids are practically grown, they don't need me around all the time. It's not a crime to have some fun when you're gone. Later that week, I was talking to Chloe. Told her I'd spoken to her mom. You ever actually see these friends of hers? Like, when they drop her off? I asked. A couple of times. Honestly, they seemed overdressed. Hair and makeup done, wearing these tight, sparkly dresses. Like they were going clubbing in Vegas or something. One of them was black. Mom said she was a client? Something about a new nightclub opening up, that she's doing a story on. And how does your mom dress when she goes out? Like them? Not exactly, but she has been wearing some pretty revealing outfits lately. That got me thinking. She's even borrowed some of my clothes. Which, are a little tight on her. I want my mom back. Hopefully, it's just a phase. Chloe's words stuck with me. Another phase? Had Laura pulled this kind of stuff before, and the kids never mentioned it? I'd always trusted her, never had any reason not to. But Chloe was a smart girl, always noticed things. I asked Ryan about it too, when I got the chance. He just shrugged. Yeah, mom's friends are kinda hot. But, yeah, they always look like they're dressed to go out. I don't need to see my mom in a miniskirt, you know? Laura was on the short side, 5'1", maybe 120 pounds. But she worked hard to stay in shape, and it showed. One evening, she called me on my cell. Said she was having dinner with a client at a lounge, about 30 minutes outside of town. Wouldn't be home until late. As luck would have it, I was in the area, finishing up with a claim. Figured I'd swing by the lounge, just to see what was what. I walked in and told the hostess. My wife's here. Said to meet her. Headed over to their table, ready to say hi. Jake, what are you doing here? Laura looked flustered, and no wonder. Sitting across from her was a woman who could have stepped right out of a magazine. Exactly the kind of overdressed Chloe had described. Model gorgeous. I was in the neighborhood. Who's your friend? Oh, I'm so sorry. This is Casey, a client. Casey, my husband, Jake. Casey gave me this limp handshake, barely making eye contact. Jake, sorry, but this is a working dinner. We're discussing a new nightclub Casey's involved with, opening next month. They're giving me an exclusive. Don't worry about it. I'll see you at home in a couple of hours. Laura said. It was nice meeting you, Casey. I gave Laura a quick kiss. She was annoyed, I could tell, but I didn't care. Headed straight for the door and called the kids. Pizza night. Over dinner, I told them about meeting Casey. They were right about the overdressed thing, but I had to admit, she was striking. Told them Laura was working on a story about this new club. At least they seemed relieved that I knew what was going on. When Laura got home, she let me have it. Said I embarrassed her, humiliated her. All I did was say hi. But I knew better than to argue when she was like this. She even implied that I almost ruined her exclusive. What the heck was she hiding? Something was definitely off, but I couldn't put my finger on it. If she was sleeping with some guy, I honestly didn't know what I'd do. She was the mother of my kids. For the next few weeks, things were tense. She barely spoke to me unless she had to. Put on a good show at Ryan's graduation, for the family, but I could tell it was an act. Both sets of parents were there. We definitely needed to have a serious talk about our marriage. I hadn't had to stay overnight for work since that night at the lounge with Casey. And Laura hadn't gone out with her friends either, which only made me more suspicious. Then on Wednesday, I told her I had to be out of town overnight on Friday. That I'd be back Saturday morning. She barely even reacted, just grabbed her purse and left for work. The truth was, I didn't have to be anywhere. But if Chloe was right about Laura, well, I figured I'd see what was what. Worst case scenario, I wasted a night in a motel. I called home around 8 o'clock Friday night. Ryan answered. Hey, is your mom around? Nah, she went out with her friends. Some woman picked her up. Said they were going to a party in Easton, be back late. What party? Where at? He told me the name of the club. I knew the place. Definitely not the kind of spot a married woman, a mother, should be hanging out at. Especially not with the way Chloe described her friends. The place was packed when I got there. Grabbed a drink at the bar and headed upstairs. There was a balcony level with a few tables. I spotted a woman sitting alone who looked like she might work there. Figured if I was going to be keeping an eye out for Laura, I needed some cover. Didn't want to look too obvious. I bought the woman a drink, tried to follow her conversation while simultaneously scanning the crowd downstairs. And then I saw her. There she was, at a table downstairs. With Vanessa, an old friend of hers, divorced now, who she claimed she didn't hang out with anymore. This did not bode well. Vanessa had a reputation. Rumor was, she'd run a brothel out of a bar she used to manage. Laura swore she never knew anything about it, and I had no reason to doubt her at the time, but still. Last I heard, Vanessa had skipped town after the divorce. Guess Laura was her source on that one. And it got worse. There were two other women at the table, both decked out like they were going to a gala. One was Casey. No clue who the other one was, but she looked Asian, had her hair styled in this elaborate updo. Casey's arm was around Laura, her hand resting on her thigh. Damn. I sat there for a while, morbidly curious to see what would happen next. Casey was tall, even taller in those heels. Next to Laura, most women looked tall. The other woman was a bit shorter, but they both had that same, glamorous, out-of-place vibe. The woman I was with was happy to keep the drinks coming. It was her job, after all, part of the whole lure them in, get them spending game. Though I wasn't sure what she thought I was in for. For everything else, there's MasterCard, right? She said, laughing. She called herself Dakota. So, you want to get a room? Or, you seem pretty interested in what's going on downstairs. That get you going? Doesn't look like you need much help in that department. She reached over and put her hand on my crotch. Not really my scene, I muttered, pulling away. Rough day. Maybe some other time. Downstairs, Laura and the others were getting up to leave. I threw a 20 at Dakota, said goodbye, and practically ran down the stairs after my wife and her entourage. They split up in the parking lot, Laura getting into a car with Casey, Vanessa and the other woman in a separate car. I followed Laura, my gut twisting with dread. They drove to a motel about a mile away. Walked right past the check-in desk and straight to the elevator. They had a room booked already, no doubt. I was about to follow them inside when I saw Vanessa and the other woman getting out of their car. I hung back in the shadows, hoping Vanessa wouldn't recognize me. They, too, bypassed the front desk, heading for the elevator. What the hell was going on? Taking a chance, I walked up to the desk. Hi, my wife, Laura Bennett. Did she reserve a room here earlier? She's got this thing about forgetting things. The clerk smiled, checking his computer. Yes, sir. Booked it this morning. Great. At least I knew she was paying. And that this wasn't some innocent business meeting. Did she, leave a key card for me, by any chance? I'd need to see some ID, sir. He was polite, just doing his job. I showed him my license. Looks like she got both keys earlier, sir. I can give you another, but there's a $5 charge. Yeah, well, I'll be getting that back from her later. I handed him the 5. He laughed. Tell me about it. My wife would forget her head if it wasn't attached. He handed me the key card. Room 421. The room was registered for 2 people. No reason for him to question anything. My heart was pounding. What was I going to say? What was I going to do? Unless Laura had a damn good explanation, this was it. Our marriage was over. Part of me was hoping, praying, they were just talking business or something. But I had a bad feeling. This wasn't just talking business. Not the way they'd snuck in here. Not with that look on their faces. It was a 2-room suite. 20 minutes had passed since they'd gone inside. I took a deep breath, slid the key card, and slowly opened the door. I could hear them in the next room. God, I felt like an idiot, standing there. I'd read stories, heard guys talk about doing this, but this was different. Worse than I'd imagined. The first room was a disaster. Clothes scattered everywhere, like they'd stripped down the second they walked in. I recognized Laura's dress, and what I assumed was the rest of her outfit. From the next room, I heard sounds. Laura, moaning. I'd know that sound anywhere. My stomach clenched. My wife, with another woman? What was I doing here? But I had to know, and had to see it for myself. I pushed open the connecting door. Laura was on the bed. And I couldn't believe my eyes. Casey, son of a bitch, was a guy. They both looked at me, faces frozen in shock. Please don't hurt me. Casey blurted out. Laura just lay there, speechless. If he doesn't do what I tell him to, I will mess you up. Laura found her voice. No, don't do this, not in front of my husband. Shut up. I turned to Laura. After tonight, you're not my wife anymore. Now, I want some answers. I turned back to Casey. Are you a man, or what? I'm a female impersonator, sir. Not actually a guy. A what? It seems Vanessa's opening a new club out of town. Has female impersonators, other acts, contacted Laura, offered her an exclusive if she'd do a story on it. She's the one who invited her here to meet us. Casey stammered, glancing nervously at Laura. There are 3 of us. Casey, Kai, she's the other one you saw, and another girl. We've been going to different places around town, doing promo for Vanessa's club. Most people don't even realize we're impersonators. We try not to, give it away. They'd had me fooled. Laura was still sobbing into her pillow. Were all 3 of you? Did she ever say she didn't want to? I couldn't even finish the sentence. Casey shook his head. No, sir. We'd never force anyone. She was always willing. I'd been taking pictures the whole time, on my phone. I went into the other room, the rage taking over. Grabbed Laura's dress and the other clothes scattered around, took them into the bathroom, and shredded them with a pair of scissors. It was the only thing I could think to do. Casey just sat there, terrified. Part of me wanted to hurt him. But that wouldn't solve anything. Except to land me in jail. Back in the bedroom, I looked down at Laura. Don't even bother coming home tonight. I'm moving out. We're getting a divorce. I walked out, dropped the key card at the front desk, and drove home in a daze. I should have felt relieved, even vindicated, but I just felt empty. Both kids were home when I got there. I told them I'd caught Laura cheating, that I was leaving and filing for divorce. I spared them the details. Chloe burst into tears. I hate her. I hate Mom. She sobbed. Don't say that, Chloe. It's okay to hate what she did, but she loves you both, always has. I don't know why she did it, but I can't. I can't stay. I'll never be able to trust her again. Where are you going? Ryan asked. He was trying to be tough, but I could tell he was shaken. I'll be at your grandparents' for a while, until I find a place. You two stay here, with your mom. You'll be out on your own soon enough. But you can always call me. Need anything at all. And the deal about college money still stands, for both of you. I'll pay my share, just like we agreed. I threw some clothes in a suitcase, spent my last night in that house. Chloe got up early and made me breakfast. Laura, of course, never came home. My parents were heartbroken when I told them why I was leaving Laura. They asked if there was any chance we could work things out. No, it's over. Chloe called a few days later. Told me Laura had been dropped off that afternoon, by a guy. The same car that had picked her up the other night. I didn't have the heart to tell her it was the same person. Monday morning, I went to see Greg, a lawyer friend of mine. Told him everything. Asked him to start the divorce proceedings. Get our finances untangled, the house, everything. I want to keep things civil, for the kids. We'll file for irreconcilable differences for now. But if she fights me on anything, I'll amend it to adultery. With names, including Vanessa. I'd taken a lot of pictures at that motel, including some compromising shots of Vanessa that I was prepared to use if I had to. Can you put a rush on this? I can have it on your wife's desk by Friday. And he did. Laura called me over and over, but I didn't pick up. She even called my parents, but my dad shut that down quickly. Chloe, on the other hand, she'd been doing some investigating of her own. Dad, I heard Vanessa's back in town, opening a new nightclub, and get this, they have female impersonators. I almost laughed. And you're wondering if that was her, the client your mom was with? You knew, didn't you? You caught mom with one of them, didn't you? Let's just say, there are some things you're better off not knowing. Anything else you want to know, you can ask your mother. She's barely speaking to me or Ryan. It always ends up in a fight. She ruined our family, Dad. Chloe sighed. I just hear her crying in her room a lot. Greg had our joint accounts frozen, so neither of us could touch the money. I had my own credit card, and I figured Laura did too. Most of our bills were on autopay, so we'd be okay for a couple of weeks at least. The day the divorce papers were served was the same day I met Avery at the Tipsy Crow. Later that night, I knew I had to go home, face Laura one last time. I wanted her to sign the papers, and I wanted to move on with my life. I called first, just to let her know I was coming. She answered on the second ring. When I got there, she looked smaller somehow. Defeated. It's still your house, too, Jake. You could have just come in. She mumbled, stepping aside. I got the papers. I can't believe you showed Greg those pictures. Are you going to sign them? Get this over with? You never even gave me a chance to explain. Explain what, Laura? We can fix this. I know we can. I love you, Jake. There were tears in her eyes. Love me? You don't love me any more than you love the man in the moon? You just can't stand the thought of being alone. Let me explain. Please, Jake, just hear me out. Here's what I know, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. You cheated. Nobody forced you. Nobody tricked you. And this goes way back, doesn't it? To that whole thing with Vanessa and the massage parlor. You've been pulling this crap for years. Who told you about that, anyway? Nobody told me. I just figured it out. Laura's voice was barely a whisper. So, Vanessa's back in town, and you figured you could, what? Pick up where you left off. Only this time, you got caught. Okay, fine, I got the job for the nightclub. But, those impersonators, it was just a bonus. We had to keep it on the down low. That's why I couldn't tell you anything. If anyone saw us, I could always say they were clients. Who'd question that? All these years, Laura, we had a good life. I almost wish I hadn't found out. But you just kept pushing it. Now that I know the truth, it's like you're a stranger. A disgusting stranger. I don't even want to know how many. My voice cracked. I couldn't even say it. Don't you dare. Casey, Kai, the other one. I don't even want to know about the rest of them. Please, Jake, just. I'm so sorry. I know I messed up. I can change. I just need another chance. Chloe told me about the cruise tickets. Please, Jake, let's go on that cruise. Let's start over. I will be starting over. But not with you. It's over, Laura. You're dead to me. Now sign the damn papers. Or I swear to God, I will refile, with adultery as the grounds, and I will use those pictures. You understand? This is a no-fault state. Everything gets split down the middle. You keep the house, I keep half the equity. I want a few of my things, nothing that reminds me of you. You have 2 days. 2 days, and if Greg doesn't have those papers, you'll regret it. Don't test me, Laura. Think about your parents, your friends, your children, seeing those pictures, knowing what you did. Everyone knows one thing. Seeing proof, that's another. 2 days. That's all you get. I walked out, got in my car, and drove away. Didn't look back. The next morning, Greg called. Laura had signed the papers. He drew up an agreement, dividing everything as we'd discussed. I got most of the savings, she got the house and all the furniture. We each kept our cars, our retirement accounts. No alimony, obviously. And since the kids were over 18, no child support. I'd already promised Chloe and Ryan I'd cover my share of their college expenses. They'd have to work part-time, summers, but they wouldn't have to take out loans. Greg told me Laura just sat there in his office, like a zombie. Said she looked shell-shocked. Guess she thought that because we'd been married so long, that I'd give her another chance. She knew I was fair, knew I'd never do anything to hurt the kids. I guess, in a way, she still trusted me. Which was more than I could say for myself. Chloe called later. Mom was really upset when she heard about the cruise. Said you'd planned it as a fresh start for us. I think she knows she messed up this time, Dad. For good. She cried when she heard about the cruise, Dad. The one you'd booked for you and Mom. A chance to start over, without us kids around. I think she gets it now. That time, she went too far. When Greg got back from the courthouse, he said I could go by the house and get the rest of my stuff. He'd even asked Laura if she wanted to be there, and she'd said no. Said she trusted me to take what I needed. I managed to load everything I wanted into a couple of pickup truck runs. My dad said I could store some of it in their basement. Didn't have much, really. The next day, I got a call. A woman's voice. Is Jake Bennett available? Speaking. Who's calling? Avery Carter. We met at the Tipsy Crow last week? You asked about apartments for rent? I couldn't believe it. My voice softened instantly. Avery. Hi. Sorry if I sound grumpy, it's been a heck of a week. And please, call me Jake. So, about those apartments. Turns out, there was a vacancy. A couple of doors down from Avery, in her building. An older couple had just moved out. I was at her place within the hour. This is amazing. You really didn't have to. I started to say as we were checking out the apartment. It was great, 2 bedrooms, came with appliances. Consider it a thank you for the Reuben. Avery laughed. I told the rental agent I'd take it. We celebrated with dinner at the Crab Shack. Full disclosure, I haven't dated in 20 years. So, if I do something weird, just let me know. I told her a bit about myself, what I did, about the kids. Mentioned the divorce, said it would be final in a couple of months. So, let me guess. She begged you to take her back, swore she'd change? That old song and dance. Actually, yeah, said she didn't know why she did it, that she could change. But I found out it wasn't the first time. There's no way I could ever trust her again. She sounds messed up. Avery said with a knowing smile. I thought back to what I'd said about her ex-husband, back at the Tipsy Crow. We both started laughing. I liked being with Avery. She was so easygoing, so different from everything. We ended up at her place, watching a movie. I kissed her goodnight at the door, nothing serious, just a sweet, lingering kiss. We should do this again sometime. We will. As long as you're okay with taking it slow. I'm not. I don't sleep around, Jake. Mark was only the second. Let's just say, I'm not comfortable with that until the divorce is final. Totally fine with me. I like being with you. That's enough for now. And I meant it. We started having dinner together a couple of times a week. Sometimes we'd go over to her sister's, Erin's. She was a little wary of me at first. I met her husband, Dan, and their 2 kids, who were in high school. So, Jake, what do you do for a living? Erin asked, studying me over her wine glass. Insurance adjuster. Got my associates at State, been doing it ever since. I told her about Chloe and Ryan, where they were in school. Later that night, on the drive home, Avery filled me in. My sister, she can be a bit overprotective, but I think she approves. We both laughed. I really was starting to fall for her. I like being with you, Avery. Like, a lot. I said before kissing her goodnight. I like you too, Jake. And I do want to date you. I'm not sleeping with anyone until the divorce is final. No exceptions. I can live with that. And I could. Just being with her was enough. For now. We were a couple, even if we hadn't, yet. The week before the divorce was final, I took a deep breath and asked Avery if she wanted to meet Chloe and Ryan. We all went out for pizza that weekend. So, guys, no questions about your mother, okay? Let's just enjoy the pizza. The kids loved Avery right away. Maybe a little too much, judging by their third-degree interrogation over pepperoni and extra cheese. Avery took it all in stride, laughing along with them. She really was easy to love. And then Chloe hit me with a question I wasn't prepared for. Avery, would you go on a cruise with Dad over the holidays? He got tickets, leaves Christmas Eve, back New Year's Day. I shot Chloe a look, but it was too late. Chloe, honey, that's really sweet of you, but… Avery started to say. She needs time to plan her wardrobe, Dad. Come on, you care about her, or you wouldn't have introduced them. Avery, she's right. I was going to ask you after everything is final next week, but I guess the cat's out of the bag now. It's a big decision, I get it. Yes, I'll go. Chloe, honey, a woman needs time to prepare. Don't be so hard on your dad. Avery's smile was soft, genuine. I could tell she meant it. The following week, I was officially single. I suggested a celebratory drink to Avery. Actually, there's this new club that just opened outside of town. Heard it's supposed to be pretty swanky. Wanna check it out? I hadn't told Avery much about how Laura and I split, just that it was over. Some of the other teachers were talking about it. They have impersonators, famous singers, even Elvis, Ricky Nelson, and female impersonators too, I think. I decided not to overthink it. I picked Avery up that night. She looked stunning in a little black dress. Wow, never had a teacher who looked like that. She laughed. We'd invited Aaron and Dan to join us. As we were being led to our table, I realized I had no idea what I was going to say when the female impersonators came on. The place was packed, and felt more like a Vegas nightclub than anything in Easton. We ordered drinks, and the show started. The impersonators were incredible. Dead ringers for the real deal. We were halfway through our meal when the female impersonators took the stage. Holy cow, those are guys? Dan whispered, impressed. Easy there, fella. Aaron said with a smirk. You go putting your hands down any pants, you might get a surprise. The music was all lip-synced, of course, but it was the original recordings, so it sounded amazing. And they were good. Scary good. I immediately recognized Casey. And Kai, the Asian performer, was incredible. The third one, a black woman with an amazing voice, was new. Sable, they called her. They were a talented bunch, but I couldn't shake the images flashing through my head, memories I'd rather forget. This whole thing was stirring up a lot of feelings I hadn't dealt with. Laura, she'd been with all three of them. That much was clear. They cleared the stage for dancing, and I knew I couldn't keep it in anymore. I told Avery everything. About Laura, about catching her with Casey, the whole messed up story. There shouldn't be any secrets between us, Avery. She smiled and kissed me. Jake, I read Laura's article about the club. That's why I wanted to come here. Hoping you'd be honest with me. I could tell you were holding something back, not saying much about your divorce. But the other teachers said it was a nice place. I wasn't trying to trick you or anything. I love you, Jake. I really do. No doubts. Hey, you too. Get a room. Aaron called out from across the table, laughing. We intend to. As soon as we get out of here. Avery shot back with a wink. We dropped Aaron and Dan off at their place. We should do this again sometime, Dan said, and then we were on our way. So, your place or mine? I asked. Yours. Avery grinned. Back at my place, I suddenly felt nervous. It had been a long time. 20 years. And it has been over 3 months since Laura. Avery must have sensed my hesitation. Jake, do you love me? She asked softly. I'm not used to this. To begin with, anyone. Mark was only my second. I don't just sleep around. I'm shy. But with you, it's different. Yes, I do love you, Avery. More than anything. All I can think about is making you happy. It's going to be new. For both of us. And then we were kissing. Sweet, tender, passionate. All the fear, all the doubt, gone. We made love that night. And from that moment on, we were inseparable. Sometimes we'd stay at her place, sometimes mine. We didn't always, but we held each other close every night. Christmas was approaching, time to get ready for the cruise. It was funny. Both sets of parents were a little old-fashioned. They weren't thrilled about us going on a trip together, unmarried. They didn't say anything directly, but it was pretty obvious. Things were different back in our day. You got married first, then you went gallivanting off on trips. My mom had said. Mom, it's not like that anymore. Times have changed. I pulled Chloe and Ryan aside before the trip. So, I might ask Avery to marry me. On the cruise. Are you guys okay with that? I know it's only been a few months since. Dad, we love Avery. And she makes you happy. So, yeah, we're good with it. Chloe grinned. Though, you might want to, talk to her about it first. Just a thought. On Christmas Eve, we flew to Florida, boarded the ship. It was gorgeous. We had a cabin with a queen-size bed, a balcony overlooking the ocean. We went to the orientation meeting, learned about the ship's rules and all the activities planned for the week. We were both so excited. An hour later, we were standing on deck, watching the shoreline fade away. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. Avery, what is it? Something you want to tell me? Remember, no secrets. She said, gently teasing. Avery, My throat tightened. Tears welled up in my eyes. I love you, so much. Maybe it was the setting, the moment, but I couldn't hold it in any longer. What is it, Jake? You can tell me anything. Her eyes were full of concern. I pulled a small velvet box out of my pocket. Avery, I know we haven't known each other very long, and this might seem too soon, but I know how I feel. Will you marry me? Oh my God, Jake, yes, of course I will. When do you want to get married? Tonight, on the ship. I already asked the captain, and he said he can do it. He's got all the paperwork, and said he's done it lots of times. So, what do you say? We get married tonight? This can be our honeymoon cruise. Saves me a lot of planning and money. I laughed, trying to lighten the mood. We both knew people would think we were crazy. But it felt right. We were sure of what we wanted. We wanted each other. An hour later, I was waiting nervously in the main dining hall, wearing my best suit. Avery appeared, radiant in a blue gown. I was saving this for New Year's Eve, she whispered. But this is a much better occasion. The room was packed. Everyone loves a surprise wedding. The captain pronounced us husband and wife. We called our families first thing, Chloe and Ryan, then our parents. Lots of happy tears on both ends. We danced the night away, ate our weight in food at the midnight buffet. Our honeymoon was amazing. We explored 3 different islands, ate incredible food, and danced every night. And, of course, made love every day. The New Year's Eve party was epic. We'd been partying all week. And we rang in the new year with a bang. Back home, Aaron and Dan were waiting for us at the airport. Avery and her sister were both crying as they hugged. You take care of my little sister, you hear me, Jake? Aaron said, wiping her eyes. Don't worry, Aaron. I'll always be there for her. I promised, hugging her back. They took us out to dinner. We told them all about the cruise, the wedding, everything. We moved into Avery's condo. My old landlord wasn't happy. No deposit back, but it was the cheapest option. Life was good. We went out sometimes, other nights we just stayed in, cooked dinner, watched movies. We spent most of our free time together. I hardly ever had to travel for work anymore. And when I did, it was only for a night or two. I wanted to be home with Avery. One afternoon, I walked in the door and something was different. The way Avery was looking at me. What's wrong? Did I do something? I asked, confused. I'll let you decide that. Tears welled up in her eyes. I'm pregnant. My jaw dropped. What? When? How? You said you couldn't? What is? I'm pregnant. The when would be about 3 months ago. The honeymoon, probably. And how? Well, we weren't exactly taking it slow, were we? I stared at her, speechless. I thought the doctor said you couldn't have kids. Because of, your health issues? She said it would be harder. Not impossible. So, are you happy? Angry? You still look like you've seen a ghost. I pulled her close, hugged her tight. This is wonderful. Avery, we both started over, and now we're going to have a baby. Our own baby. I was going to be a father again. And this time it felt right. Like a true fresh start. I was a happy man. A happy father to be. Life had a funny way of working out. We found out a few things after getting back from the honeymoon. Avery's ex, Mark, had married his secretary. Wanted to make it official before the baby was born. Only the baby wasn't white. Turned out to be a healthy baby boy, but definitely Mexican. Now Mark wanted an annulment, but the secretary was fighting him tooth and nail. Chloe and Ryan were doing well in college, getting along with their mom again. Apparently, the night Avery and I went to Vanessa's club, Laura had been there too. Seeing me with Avery, Chloe said it made her realize what she'd lost. She still worked for the newspaper, even dated some, though she hadn't introduced anyone to the kids yet. And as for Vanessa, turns out, Laura blamed her for a lot of what happened. They weren't friends anymore. Last anyone heard, Vanessa had left the country, moved to Amsterdam. As for Avery and me, we couldn't have been happier. Our baby was due in the spring. Avery planned to take a short leave of absence from teaching, but she wanted to go back eventually. Luckily, we had two very eager grandmothers ready and willing to babysit. It's amazing, isn't it? How two people, both down on their luck, can meet in a bar, of all places, and find their happily ever after. Life really is beautiful when you have the right people to share it with. This story, about how chance encounters and unexpected twists of fate can change our lives, is both captivating and inspiring. It reminds us that love, family, second chances, and loyalty are the cornerstones of a life worth living. It offers hope and inspires us to believe that a brighter future is always possible, even when things seem dark and hopeless. And that's the incredible story of how two lives, both marked by heartache and loss, found a way to rebuild and thrive. It's a powerful reminder that even when life seems to be at its darkest, there's always a glimmer of hope on the horizon. Love, second chances, and the courage to start anew can lead to a happiness you never imagined possible. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring tales like this one. Thanks for watching, and remember, life's twists and turns might just lead you to your own happy ending.